All right, okay, so what I'm going to show you guys today is this is a Rotovap, and what it does is it pulls vacuum on solvent. So I've got a solvent over here somewhere. There it is. Yeah. I got a solvent, and it actually has solid in there. We want to recover that solid. So we want to pull that fluid off or reduce the volume of the fluid. This is where you use this. So it's a very kind of extensive machine, but the long story short is I want to boil off that fluid, but I can't heat it too hot. If I heat it too hot, it might ignite or it might actually decompose. So this allows me to heat it or to evaporate it under dropping pressure. So just a couple things. So here's my solvent. It's all glass fitted on. Let's see if you can see this guy. This is called the bump flask. And if you can kind of get close on that part, you can kind of see it. It has a special valving so the fluid can come up in there, but it can't go all the way up into the inner workings. It's kind of locked right here. It'll just trap in there. And that's if this boils too fast and shoots out the top, it'll actually get caught in this. This is called the bump flask. So one precaution is if you want to, you don't want to redo your experiment, you can make sure you wash the bump flask before you start. That way if it bumps, this is still clean, you can just pour it back in and start all over. So that's what that's for. All right, now I'm good. Now whenever you seal these things on, you don't want them to drop off. So a couple tricks is I want to have a tight seal. So I think you guys will have learned this in class a little bit. I take a little silicone grease here. This is called vacuum grease. I always put it up on the top part of the beaker. I don't put it down very far in. And if I've got that right, I'll actually see let's see if I can get in and see that. There's a clear band on top, but then below it's still smoky, but that's where the grease ends up. So if I go a little farther down, you'll see that clear ring extend. But I got a continuous ring. I don't want it close to the bottom because I don't want this stuff leaking in and contaminating my solvent. I just want it to make a seal. So that's what that's all about. And then the other thing is, you want your magical green, these are called Kleck clamps. They're lifesavers. We put this back onto the glassware. And that way, if that won't work loose and pop off, you don't want your sample actually floating around in the water. So I clip that on. Now it's okay to administer a little bit of heat, and that's what this is for. Let's see if we turn the whole machine on, that helps. And this actually has a power button down low. So you can heat it up, so we know the boiling point of this is way up there like 60 or 50, so I might just gently heat it at 30, and that's okay. So this is a heat source. Now next what we're going to do is we're going to try and get, there's a pump in here, so this is, we get this water nice and cold. And the bottom line is I'm just doing a demo, but when you really do this thing, we're going to pack it full of ice water. So this will have ice water in it. And there's a pump, and it's running from the top or the bottom, and it's filling these coils, and then it's coming back out and recirculating. So cold water is continuously in here. So this whole part right up here is nice and cold. All right, so this is hot, this is cold, and the idea is we're going to get our vapors up through here. When they hit the cold tower, they'll drop out here, and we'll capture the solvent so it doesn't go to waste. So that's the secret, and then whatever's left behind we can capture on this side. The design is not to capture something of use over here, but to leave it behind. So we're going to pull off the solvent. That's what we're after right now. So when we do capture the solvent, though, sometimes it's good as well to have when the vapors show up, they will So let me reword that. When the solvent, right, that's the solvent we're capturing, and it shows up, we don't want to lose it. So that's what this is for. That's going to make sure that stays nice and cold so we don't lose it. We don't want it going back up into the vacuum system. So we're pretty much ready to go. We can lower this. You can look on here, it says locked and lift. When I get it down to the lift side, I just submerge that so the fluid level in here is below the water. If we go a little extra, it doesn't hurt anything. And then what I got to do is get this bump trap in ice water, and that's what the lab jack's for. So that'll capture any solvent. And then next, and here's where the roto comes in for the rotovap. Now this is a simple idea. We're just going to start it spinning. The reason for the spinning is because when water boils and you're heating it from the bottom, the first part that's going to boil is the bottom. So, you know, if you have some water and the first part that starts to boil is down low, that gas will turn into a bubble and come out like that and blow through the whole fluid. But if you're spinning it, it's heated all the way around. The entire fluid is heated. So it'll actually pull vapor off the top, and it will never boil, like vigorously boil, although it's boiling. So that'll prevent it from bumping up. So you want it spinning. We got it heating. We got it spinning. So the next thing we want to do is we want to apply vacuum. And so now the vacuum has a vacuum trap on it. So this is the vacuum over here. Yeah, there you go. So if I turn this on, it's going to start pulling vacuum on the system. But the problem with that is I might get vapors into this pump. And this is a very expensive pump, so I don't want those organic vapors in my pump. So I'm going to trap them right here with what's called the cold finger. So I'll show you the design of this. Once again, I'll pull it apart. Will you hand me that vacuum grease too, again? Then look at the clamp collection. Look at, there's a little bigger one. But again, I'm going to grease my fittings. I don't want anything getting stuck. Nothing bigger, really?
Don't think so.
Okay. So, I was hoping she might have a clamp here because I don't really want to bust this thing. It might turn loose. Just grab the glass from below, and that way there's no way it's going to fall out. And that's another safe way to do this. So I'll just go with that. Okay. So next, I need something that'll trap here, but it needs to actually be colder than ice. So what we do here is we actually go to dry ice. Okay, so what we do is you pack the dry ice in here. That way this stays a little colder than the ice baths over there. That way we don't get anything back drawn in the pump. At this point, you can turn your pump on. You can look the way these pump lines are marked. They have little crosses in them. They show which way the air is flowing. So right now, let me see if you can zoom in on that at all. Let me see. I'll use this one as an example. There you go. Can you kind of see that? That cross. So right now, if I had this, I could set it like this, and it would go straight through from here out. I could set it like this. And it's actually coming to the T and out. Or I could set it this way, and that would put it to back out here to the T and right up the line. So that's, for this one, we're not using it, so I'm going to block it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to block it from the T right here. But right now, that one's teed in such a way it's leaving the trap, and it's basically going to that side. But when both of these are running together, whoops, we got to twist it over so that it's going to the vacuum and then out to both lines. But we're only using one, so I'm going to turn it like this. I can turn on my vacuum, and then you can follow me over here. Such that it's coming right out this valve, and you can hear it. That's where the vacuum's at. But what I'd like to do is apply vacuum to this system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it around. Now, just so you know, later if I want to take the vacuum off of this, I can make this a straight line, and that blocks the pump but opens the system to the outside. So I'm actually going to get connected to the system by turning to this configuration. And when that happens, I'm actually starting to draw a vacuum in here. And then if you come around with the camera, this is going to start to drop the vacuum, and at some point this is going to start to boil. And you know you're at the right boiling point when you start to see condensation drops fall back in here. And then that will rapidly remove solvent. So once I start to see condensation and capturing drops over here, I'm just going to let it go until it's completely empty. So that's what I'm after. Alright, so we're done collecting all our solvents. So now we're going to show you the proper shutdown procedure. Okay, so one thing we want to do is we want to remove this from the heat source. So again, we can lock or unlock, and this one's a heavy one, so you lift the whole thing up. Okay, now what I want to do is I actually want to remove the vacuum. So I'm going to just put my finger on here just so you can understand. Okay. Now I have Hannah go turn off the pump because it's all done.
Where is that?
It's over on the pump. There's a switch right on it. Cool. And now I'm just going to take my finger off, and if you can't, you might hear it. Oh yeah, it wasn't a very good vacuum. All right. I can stop this spinning. There you go. And there's your product. And again, anything that you want to keep upright, there's these, we call those donuts. They'll hold that glassware upright. And then last but not least, don't forget we got to get rid of the solvent here. And this has a different type of pivot ball, so it's kind of nice. It comes off real easy. That also needs to be greased when you set it up originally. So this guy is ready to go to waste. Put that there. And then the last thing you got to do is you can turn off your recirculating water. So we'll go over here and show you where that's at. And this, what was driving water through, like we talked about, this is full of ice water and it's just pumping through here, keeping this cold. But we're done with it, so we can turn that off. And then we've got to get the trap off. This is not per sample, this is per class. So at the end of the class, one of the last things we want to do, and sometimes Brittany or Dr. Thompson will do this, is we want to trap or recover this. And there you go. So just be real careful because we don't want to break this. That can sit up in there, and then again this goes with the other dump or waste. All right.